right, so let's start at number 10. Ready? Okay, first step. Always the same, always the easiest. Yeah, combine them. So since I have this stuff equals y and this stuff equals y, that means that this stuff here equals that stuff there. Okay? Now, pretty much every time what you're going to do from there is get everything on the same side equal to 0. So how do I do that? Add 2x to both sides. And remember that there's an issue here, Cheyenne, with like terms. I can only add x squareds to x squareds. I can only add x's to x's, and I can only add numbers to numbers. So this 2x that I'm adding has to happen with the other x's. So x squared minus 5x plus 2x is minus 3x minus 4. Those cancel. Equals 0. Nate?
If you're dividing or times, it doesn't matter about the terms.
If you're dividing or timesing, it doesn't matter about the terms. No, good question. Because if you think about things like if you're going to add something together in real life, like if you have 4 classroom desks plus 6 tables, you can't combine those, right? But if you have things in real life that are different, you can divide them. Like if you're going 68 miles and it's going to take you an hour to get there, then you're going 68 miles per hour. So dividing, you're good. Multiplying, you're good. Adding and subtracting, no good. Have to be the same. All right, so while we're on Nate, figuratively, not literally, it's negative 4 and positive 1, right? Okay. Native, so I was asking. No, it's just a guess and check. So you got to come up with 2 numbers that multiply together to be negative 4, right? Yeah. So off to the side in your head you go, well, the only things that multiply together to be 4 are 1 and 4 and 2 and 2. Which one of those can I get a 3 out of? The 1 and 4 if I subtract. And so that's what your answer is. It's just a little guess and check. You know what, Oscar? Oh, yeah, and then you could use the quadratic formula instead if you're not good at the factor. Yeah. Okay, so if x minus 4 times x plus 1 equals 0, then my 2 options for x are 4 and negative 1. Okay? Okay, number 11. What? Oh, we forgot to figure out y. Thanks. Okay, so on this one back here, number 10, you're right. We got x is 4. So if I take x equals 4 and plug it in there, I get what? 8. Negative 8. So that means one answer is 4 and negative 8. And then if I take negative 1 and plug it into here, negative 2 times negative 1 is 2. So negative 1, 2 is the other answer. Okay? Thank you. So yeah, you got to figure out both. Forgot about that. All right. So number 11. What do we do first?
I think isn't it? Oh wait, no. Go back really fast.
I can go back really fast. That's pretty fast.
And you go back
for 1 minute. Okay. So first part of number 11. What do I do? Make them equal to each other. So I write 2x squared plus 2x plus 1 equals x plus 1. No, we decided we're not solving them by graphic.
Awesome.
Okay? All right, so that's the easy first step. And then I have to get everything over on the left. And so we're starting to be big kids here now. We've been doing this for a while. I'm going to do it in one step.
I don't want to go over.
I'm going to subtract the x from both sides, and I'm going to subtract the 1 from both sides. And I lined up the x's with the x's and the numbers with the numbers. Okay, so I can do these 2 steps at the same time. So 2x squared stays as 2x squared because I didn't subtract anything from it. 2x's take away an x is plus 1x. And then the 1's cancel, and that equals 0. Okay? Now, these right here tend to freak you guys out when you need to factor these, and they shouldn't because they're easier than the other ones. What's different about this one from that one right there?
Does that have the exponent?
It doesn't have this other number right here, right? Okay? That makes it easier because all I have to do for this is factor out an x from both of them. Everything over here, each term has an x at least, so I can take an x out. So 2x squared is like 2 times x, correct?
Yeah.
So if I take an x out of that, what am I left with? 2x. And then plus x is like 1 times x. So if I take an x out of that, what am I left with? 1. So this factors into x times 2x plus 1. And since those equal 0, that means either x has to equal 0 or 2x plus 1 equals 0, right? Okay? So x equals 0, we're done. That's our answer. And I'll have, okay, let's plug that in. So if I plug that into here, 0 plus 1 is 1. So I get x equals 0 and y equals 1. I know that 2x plus 1 has to equal 0. I have to do a little bit of math to figure out what that means x equals. What do I do first to solve this for x? I subtract 1 from both sides, so 2x equals negative 1. And then I divide by 2. So x equals negative 1/2. So then to figure out what y equals, I take the negative 1/2, plug it in there. Negative 1/2 plus 1 is just 0.5, 1/2.
Can there be decimal?
Yep, it could be decimal. So you could go with negative 0.5 and 0.5 if you want instead. Same thing.
For 13, I got 4 for y. I got y equals 4.
Okay, we'll take a look at that and see if you are correct or not. Okay, so number 12, same thing. So I'm starting with y equals x squared plus 2x plus 5. I also have y equals negative 2x plus 1. What do I do to start with? Set them equal to each other like always. So x squared plus 2x plus 5 equals negative 2x plus 1. Next step. Okay, I'm going to subtract 1 from both sides, and at the same time I'm going to, did you say it, Francis? I thought I heard you say it. Somebody said it. Add 2x. Okay, well then I pointed at you and you denied it. Okay, so over here on the left, what do I have?
X squared plus 4x plus 4.
Awesome. And on the right, what do I have? 0. Okay, so now I'm going to factor this. So I'm going x and x, so I need to multiply together to be 4. So Tristan, off to the side, I've got 4 and 1 and 2 and 2. Which one of those will add together to give me 4? 2 and 2. So it's got to be x plus 2 and x plus 2. So this is kind of a handy one because since they're both the same, what's my answer? X equals, yeah, there's only one answer. X equals negative 2. Okay? And that answer comes up twice, but it's the same thing, so who cares? All right, now I need to take that and plug it into here to figure out what y is. So negative 2 times negative 2 is 4, and 4 plus 1 makes 5. All right? Kind of? Getting the hang of it? Sinking in a little bit?
What's the 4, 1, and the
Okay.
Aldrich?
What?
What's the 4, 1, and the 2 on the
Oh,
side?
that's my side work to figure out how this factors. So I'm looking for two numbers that multiply together to be 4, so I know that's either 4 and 1 or 2 and 2. And then they have to add together to be 4, so that has to be the 2 and the 2. Okay, so I'm just showing my work a little bit there.
Yeah.
Usually just do that in your head, but
Oh, really?
no, I don't want to do anything. This is more than enough.
How about you said this was negative?
Okay, number 13. First step. First step.
You got it.
Set them equal to each other. 3x plus 4 equals negative x squared plus 4. Okay, now what?
You gotta put the 4 on
I want to
the.
get everything over there on the left. So what do I do to the negative x squared? Add x squared. Where do I add that to? Yeah, I'm just going to have to put it on the end here because there's nothing for it to go with. What do I do to get rid of the 4? Subtract it from both sides, okay? So 0 plus x squared is x squared, 3x plus 0 is 3x, the 4's cancel, and that equals 0. So this is another one of those little situations. So I'm going to think of x squared as being x times x. I'm going to think of 3x as being 3 times x. What can I factor out of both of those? An x. If I take an x out of here, what am I left with?
3x squared.
Just from this one, what am I left with if I take the x out? Just an x. Plus, if I take an x out of here, what am I left with? 3. Okay, so what are my two answers for x? 0 and negative 3. Okay, so to plug in 0, I'm going to do it this time in the top one. So 3 times 0 is 0, plus 4 is 4. And then if I plug negative 3 in there, negative 3 times 3 is negative 9, plus 4 makes negative 5. You got 13 because you went 3 times 3 is 9 plus 4, but it's negative 3 times 3. So it's negative 9, not 9. Okay?
I got negative 0.3.
Okay, 14. Same deal.
You gotta
First
put 'em all-
step.
Put them all on one
Negative, I first have to write it out before I start getting things all on one side. Okay, so I'm
side. Why
going to
didn't
go
you do that with
negative
the
x.
last one then?
What?
Why didn't you do that with the last one?
I did.
You did?
Very first step, I took these two things and I wrote them as equal to each other. Okay? All right, now this one, there's something a little bit different. Okay? I don't want to freak you out or anything. Chase, hopefully you're going to be okay. But the x squared is positive, right?
Yeah.
So if I bring that over to the left-hand side, that's going to make it negative, and that's going to screw up my factoring. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. Instead of doing that weird thing, I'm going to add the x and subtract the 3 from the right-hand side. Okay? So bring everything to the right. So those cancel, so 0 equals x squared plus x minus 2. Okay? So that's a little bit of math magic there for you. But it doesn't matter if I get everything on the left or if I get everything on the right. As long as it's equal to 0, I'm going to be okay. Dylan, I'm not so sure whether he's going to be okay. He's about to fall asleep over there. It's a good movie, though. He says it's worth it.
I'm sitting in the 4th row, though.
Why? Too intense?
No, because you're going like this.
Oh, it's too close here. Yeah. Okay, so now I need two numbers that multiply together to be negative 2 and add together to be 1.
Because there's going to be another part of it.
Negative 2 and
There's
1.
a part for like a sequel.
Negative 1
And
and
then at the
2.
end, there's a little extra thing.
Yeah, they had one for, I was watching the Captain America, Thor, Iron Man 2 marathon, and it was like on Wednesday or something like that, and, or Tuesday. So that was after practice, and they have separate credits at the very end of like separate scenes for S.H.I.E.L.D. for with him.
Okay, so what are my two choices for x here?
I'm gonna see it. And it looks like
What are my two choices for x?
breaks Harry Potter records for
1 and negative 2. Okay? Booyah, Grandma. Where am I going to put those in?
I didn't put the first one.
Okay, if you do it in the first one, since x is 1, I have to make that negative, and then add 3 onto that, so negative 1 plus 3 is 2. Okay? If I put the second one in there, negative 2 is positive 2, and 2 plus 3 is 5.
Yes, got that one right.
Nice job. All right? Okay, a couple more.
this weekend.
Dos más.
I know. We're gonna Are we gonna have an assignment today?
We are going to have an assignment today.
Okay, sweet. Because then I can just watch that stuff online. Is it the same thing or is it different?
It's going to be a review. We're done with this chapter.
Are we taking it?
Next week, yeah. What? I do this year, yeah. Well, I just, okay,
Yeah, equal them.
first step, got to equal them. Good.
I'm getting
So,
this.
Good. So x
Kind of.
squared equals x plus 2.
I cannot see that on the
Okay.
screen.
Now I need to put everything on the
Left side.
left side. And I'm going to do that by subtracting x and subtracting 2.
But
There's no one over there for them to play with. Okay? Yeah, the x can't play with the x squared and the negative 2 can't either. So all that's left over here is x squared minus x minus 2. Those cancel, equals
I have a
0.
question about that.
Okay? Huh?
Why can't you put x squared and x together? Because wouldn't that just make x
You could,
cubed?
but it's really hard to factor
Or would it
if
be
your x squared
difficult?
is negative. Yeah, it's better to have the x squared.
Why would it be
on.
negative? Wouldn't it just be
If I put
Oh, that's subtracting. Yeah. Okay.
All right, so x and x goes in front. Two numbers that multiply together to be negative 2 and add to negative 1 are negative 2 and positive 1. And so my two x answers are 2 and negative 1.
Why is 2 positive now?
Because if these two things multiply together to be 0, then they have to be 0. So 2 minus 2 makes 0, not negative 2 minus 2. So it's always the opposite. So if it's x minus 2, the answer is positive 1. If it's x plus 1, the answer is negative 1. I mean, if it's x minus 2, the answer is positive 2. So you always switch it around.
So is it just the opposite when you write it down?
Yeah.
You could have just said it that simple. Because all that
I
stuff
want you to understand why.
Yeah, you lost me. Yeah.
All right. Hey.
But for the other x, it's not?
Yeah, it's opposite also. This was plus
Oh,
1,
yeah.
this was minus 1. Okay. X is 2 means y is 4. Because 2 plus 2 is 4. Negative 1 plus 2 is 1. So those are my two answers. Okay, we'll talk. You got some quadratic formula issues there we got to work through, but we'll just do that in a second. All right, last one.
Wait, what was the answer that one?
Too slow. So snooze, you lose.
Yeah, 2, 4.
Equal amount.
All right, last one, and the game is the same.
Equal amount.
Equal amounts. So negative x minus 7 equals x squared minus 4x minus 5. Same thing same thing as that other one.
Put them on the
I'm going to
right.
get them all on the right side this time because the x squared I want to keep positive. So I'm going to add x and add 7. So those cancel and equal 0. And so now in order to factor, I need two things that multiply together to be positive 2 and add together to be negative 3. I need two numbers that multiply together to be positive 2,
Negative 2 and negative 1.
negative 2 and negative 1. Okay, and then as Lexi and I were just talking about while the other
You
rest of
change
you guys were
opposite.
chatting about superheroes or whatnot, in case you haven't figured this out already, once you get to this right here, the x's that you're looking for are always just going to be the opposite of these right here. So since this is negative 2, it's going to be positive 2, negative 1, positive 1. Okay? So that's an easy way to figure that out. Okay, now I need to plug that in to figure out what my y's are. So if I plug in 2 there, negative 2 minus 7 is negative 9, and negative 1 minus 7 is negative 8. Okay?
Okay.
Right
Look
here.
at 2.
Hey, she
Come
wasn't
on.
done.
3. Wow.
Ray just got done writing
No
your
one-
name on paper.